Hi, welcome to this week's Fireside Chat in my kitchen. I want to say, as usual, a big thank you to Judy Zarubic, who's on the other end of this recording and making all the tech work beautifully. Also to Terry Boyd, who takes the recording of this webinar and posts it to our YouTube channel. Now, I know that so many of us have been worried about when we will get back to normal. And yet it sounds like we're going to have to live with this normal for a long, long time that we are currently experiencing. So in order to protect each other, I'm sure many of you have seen this chart demonstrating the effectiveness of wearing masks in public spaces when you cannot easily avoid close contact. The ultimate protection is revealed in these two additional images. Of course, there are some who suggest that not wearing a mask is a question of civil rights. In response, this may become our truth. This cartoon that's coming up next was created before the pandemic, but it demonstrates what I'm calling COVID brain. I really had to think when I first saw this one to realize those are all musical groups that I've listened to and enjoyed. In this pandemic, we are even more reliant on technology, no matter how primitive it may seem to our future selves. I know, it's a terrible pun. Yet that same technology is bringing us a constant tsunami of information we have to fact check. Sitting in front of our televisions, we long for more control because we can easily feel helpless in the face of the pandemic. Even wearing masks, we shouldn't touch our faces. Such a Canadian thing to suggest that one of our hands has a butter tart in it. And for those in the animal world, there are still fashion faux pas. Nevertheless, we continue with our desire in this pandemic time to look out for others around us so they can look out for us in return. In the end, we just long for as swift a return to normal as possible. The reality is that normal isn't going to return anytime soon. Instead, we are called to live faithfully within this pandemic, caring for one another, loving even those who are difficult to love, reaching out for help when we need it because we know we can depend on our family, our friends, our neighbors, and even on strangers. For example, this short video uses classical paintings to illustrate the protocols for protecting one another from this pandemic, and they are universal themes of working for the collective good. Our yearning to return to what we remember as normal is the canvas on which the world seems to paint the colors of environmental degradation, of conflict, of war, of injustice, of racism, of inequity, of poverty, and of needless death. Yet our novels, our movies, our television, and our entertainment choices seem to celebrate brokenness as an end in itself. Through these entertainments, we are told imaginary evil is romantic and varied, while in the real world, real evil is gloomy, monotonous, barren, boring. We are told that imaginary good is boring. Instead, I would claim that with Simone Weil, that real good is always new, marvelous, intoxicating. No less a musically creative genius and a terribly broken individual as Jimi Hendrix affirmed that when the power of love overcomes the love of power, the world will be at peace. Consider what Jimi Hendrix says. His statement is not something because it is a powerful truth, but it is also the way that Jesus challenged us to live. It adds to what Simone Weil said in the previous slide. Evil follows the same path, the path of seeking power over anything else. It is a selfish pursuit. It is seductive, however, because it is so familiar yet so very banal. In contrast, love is many-faceted. It comes in a rainbow of colors and in an array of possibilities. It forges pathways both unexpected and revelatory. It takes all of us, regardless of how broken and flawed we consider ourselves to be, and it reshapes us into a whole that is stronger than our individual selves could ever be. I know for myself that I have been toxic to some, but I've also been a blessing to others. I have been a pathway of healing for some, while I have often hurt those closest to me. I admit that I haven't always been right. Indeed, I've been wrong more than I've been right, but every day I'm striving to be better. The possibilities within each of us is the good news the risen Christ reveals. Consider that the idea behind a kaleidoscope is that it's a structure that's filled with broken bits and pieces, and somehow if you can look through them, you still see something beautiful. And I feel like what we are all in a way like that. As Sarah Bareilles said, we are all filled with broken pieces. To embrace the power of love, as Jimi Hendrix said, is to find our broken pieces being forged by God into a beautiful whole which fosters peace. How we treat others is the ultimate test of our love for Christ. Though our building is closed, you can keep a Christian from entering the church sanctuary, and you have not in the least bit hindered his or her worship. We carry our sanctuary with us. We never leave it. What does that really mean? That we carry our sanctuary with us. It means that our worship is lived in each day and in each decision we make between using the power of love or loving power over others. What it means is that despite our brokenness, there is beauty within, created within us from our birth. The possibilities carried within the power of love, the self-giving love we see revealed in the life, death, and resurrection of Jesus. Inside of each of us are the qualities we need to love one another and bring peace to an aching world. Our inner beauty makeup doesn't hide or conceal. Instead, it reveals our integrity, our kindness, our confidence, and our humility. It is a privilege to live into that beauty, even as we acknowledge the irony of our brokenness. So, If today gets difficult, remember the smell of coffee, or the way sunlight bounces off a window, or the sound of your favorite person's laugh, or the feeling when a song you love comes on, or the color of the sky at dusk with our famous Kincardine sunsets. If today gets difficult and you struggle to embrace the power of love in your living, remember those mental images of beauty. Remember that we are here to take care of each other. As Diana Zahir writes, if you don't know what to do in a situation, be still. If you're upset and in a reaction, be still. If you're lonely, be still. If you're scared, be still. If you are overwhelmed, be still. If you feel small, be still. Even for 5 minutes, the external environment will probably not have changed, but you will be more there for yourself. And that makes all the difference. Be still. In your stillness, not only are you there for yourself, but you are there to listen for God's guidance through the Spirit's whispers. Those whispers encourage and strengthen you to love one another as we are loved by God. It is the way of peace given to us from the Prince of Peace. It is a necessary time out, if you will, that refocuses our energies for one another. It brings us together as a family of faith for our community and for our world. It is God's song of healing and of hope, sung to the melody of love's power. Let me offer you this video as a form of prayer, one that visually demonstrates how we come together as one when we sing the song of God's healing, which pulls together each of our broken parts and makes a cohesive whole, a whole that is rooted in self-giving love. Let's be still as we watch this video which features 17,572 singers from 129 countries come together to perform Eric Whitacre's composition, Sing Gently. So as we leave, I want to say farewell and hope that in your day, this day, whenever you're watching it this week, you find that peace which brings us together to ourselves because God is there amongst us, within us, and around us. I leave you with a blessing taken from the United Church worship resource titled Celebrate God's Presence. May the grace of God, deeper than our imagination, the strength of Christ, stronger than our need, and the communion of the Holy Spirit, richer than our togetherness, guide and sustain us today and in all our tomorrows. Go in peace and in the power of love. Goodbye until next week.